Hello. Thank you for joining us for another episode of This Week in AML. I'm John Byrne, Chair of the AMLRS Advisory Board.
And I'm Elliot Berman, our Creative Director. We are excited to welcome you to the This Week in AML podcast,
where we explore key news and developments in the global financial crime prevention community.
Hi, John. How are you today?
Hi, Elliot. Sounds like I'm doing a little better than you. How are you feeling?
I feel fine, but I've got clearly have a head cold or something, and so you can hear it in my throat, hear it in my nose, but I don't feel bad. So hopefully it'll pass quickly.
So heading to Puerto Rico in the morning for a couple of events. That island obviously has been harmed greatly by the hurricane, but in the San Juan area, I've been told that it's a little more navigable or whatever. But our advisory board member, Mary Lou Jimenez, is going to be receiving an award for her work with Homeland Security and her great work on the island in the AML space. So that's great. And then the next day, she and I are going to be doing some training for bank examiners, some extensive training on a whole host of issues. So looking forward to that. Again, I know that travel's always dicey, but I think next week after we're back, hopefully I'll be able to report back on some good things there. So that's all going on, which leads me to our conversation today. Cuba is also getting hammered by the hurricane as we speak, actually, as we record this. And one of the things that I saw in my news feed today that was actually issued yesterday was a new FAQ from OFAC, and OFAC does these, constantly, and they're really good at providing information. But this is to the Cuban Assets Control Regulations, and that's obviously Cuban sanctions are an area that become over time very difficult to navigate. You need to really obviously stay up to speed. There are some FAQs that talk about how you can provide funds for educational purposes, for research purposes, but this is specifically about sending remittances using digital payments, and that's going to become pretty important to get monies to the island from family and friends to help people. So the fact that this came out, I'm sure, is not a coincidence.
No, and the definition that FinCEN uses, or I'm sorry, OFAC uses for the for digital transmission is very broad, which is in this case is a good thing. There's always the risk, depending on how badly Cuba is damaged by the storm, whether or not the networks at the receiving end will be up and functioning, whether that's cellular networks or banking networks. But at least there is a process. And when you look at the definition of what are what remittances are allowed, the first three really speak specifically to what to the current instance. The first is family remittances. So people from the U.S. Subject to U.S. jurisdiction who are 18 years or older can send to family members. That's defined. But it's also a reasonably broad definition. So generally, you're going to catch many people that you would think you would. Donative remittances. So you can do that. And then remittances to certain individuals and independent non-governmental organizations in Cuba. And those would be the NGOs. Many of those will be the NGOs on the ground, try to help people and the communities put themselves back together. So pretty broad. There's some other categories that are allowed, but these three in particular are, square on what we're talking about here.
Yeah, they also remind us that OFAC's general licenses are self-executing, and that's, of course, that you can assess that the transactions fall within the scope without getting further permission, if you will, assurance from OFAC. But there's a line or two lines in there that I thought were important to repeat for our bank clients, because you got to, as I say, navigating this is always a challenge. You don't want to be on the other side of a sanctions prohibition, but a banking institution is expected to conduct a level of due diligence, they say, that's commensurate with its overall risk profile and its internal compliance policies and procedures. That obviously a statement that's correct on many levels. That they say, however, as noted in the FAQ, FAQ actually 1057, banking institutions, including U.S. registered money transmitters, may rely on the statements of their customers that remittance transactions are authorized unless they know or have reason to know a transaction is not authorized. Now, that sounds, I have to use the word again, reasonable, but obviously the proof is in the enforcement there. So obviously OFAC is trying to make this an easier process, but still the bank has to make a decision based on their previous experience with their customers, in terms of the information that they get provided and validate that information. But I thought that was particularly interesting, and they go on to say that they don't authorize transactions related to collecting, forwarding, or receipt of remittances involving any entity that's identified, obviously, on the State Department's Cuba restricted list. So there's a lot there. Our sanctions experts in our community obviously know this space really, really well. But I do think OFAC deserves a lot of credit, as they have over time provided a lot more information that includes, I would argue, compliance direction than they really ever did, say 5-10 years ago.
Yes. It's been a conversation that has been ongoing in the community between members of the community and the trade associations, as well as parts of the Treasury Department and the bank regulators. And this is a nice example of a real world, timely assist when people are scurrying to figure out what can I do and how can I do it in an emergency.
Right. And as I referenced, if you go back, there was a release in June 9th, that talks about educational activities, because I know from talking to some of our clients, when there was a lot of confusion, specifically in the last administration, in terms of, college groups and other research groups that would go to Cuba in terms of how a financial institution could provide loans or funds there. There's a lot of questions about that. So there's a lot of information in this June notice that I'm sure, again, a sanctions expert aware of, but for those that sort of dabble in this, professional research, professional meetings there, if you're going to organize a meeting or a conference, bless you, you must be related to the organization, and must be an employee or contract. So there's a lot of good information in there that I think will definitely help if that's how you interact with travel and funding in Cuba.
Yes. So what do you have in the pipeline for the coming weeks?
Well, a couple of things. We just posted a very fun interview I did with a friend of mine, Sarah Beth Felix, who runs her own consulting firm. She is also creating a bank in Vermont. And that interview is on our Empowering Together Women in AML series. So it's on that website. Also, coming up, toward the end of the month, we'll be working with some experts in the antiquity space to get their take on that world. We've done some things in the past on that. We're going to do some more. We're going to have a webinar in October. We just got commitments from two really great experts, Megan Hodge from Ally Bank, Dan Cipano, former OCC enforcement lawyer, former deputy director. We're going to talk about AMLA. Obviously, as you know, it's been a slow process in terms of everything from priorities to national risk assessment. But these folks, Megan from within an institution and Dan, who advises institutions, will talk at length about what they're recommending. And maybe, who knows, maybe by then, it's October 27th, there'll be some new regs that we could also discuss as well.
Yes, and you'll be able to register for that webinar the beginning of next week. So watch our website and our LinkedIn page, and you'll have an opportunity to save a seat and listen to that great expert panel. John, you travel safely, okay?
All right, Elliot, feel better, man.
All right, bye-bye.
See ya.